Welcome to In the Green Room. I'm Kinga, and we have a really exciting show today. We've got the famous Sam Pillsbury, wine maker / movie director. How many films have you done, Sam? Introduce yourself.
Possibly 32.
You got to get right here. You got to kiss the mic. Pretending like you're having sex with this mic.
Oh my god! I apologize.
Possibly 32. About 32 movies. I made it. It's different. Like this, I've done some television series. I did a 6-hour British miniseries, which was the highest rated miniseries in UK for a decade.
Of course.
I've done a whole bunch of cinematic features. I've done some cable movies. I did a really nice movie with 15 and Pregnant with Kirsten Dunst for Lifetime.
I
Really
love
good
Kirsten
movie.
Dunst, really?
Highest rated cable movie of the year. Really good film, yeah.
Really?
Free Willy 3, and then I did. I wrote and directed the first New Zealand feature film to get into Cannes, called The Scarecrow, 1980, and then the next movie I made was a science fiction movie which I wrote and produced called The Quiet Earth, about a New Zealand man who wakes up one morning and everyone's vanished.
The Quiet Earth.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I feel like I've seen The Quiet Earth.
One of his favorite sci-fi movies of all time, and he put it up there with 2001. Movie. He likes big budget sci-fi movies. I made it for $1 million.
Nice.
Wow.
And I own it, and it produces about 20,000, 30,000 of income a year. 40 years after I made it.
I love that.
Yeah,
so we have to introduce our best friend Richard Betts. He is a wine judge, and he's in a lot of wine books, and he's definitely a promoter of our Arizona wines, and it's Arizona Wine Month, and that's so important for us to say that. Introduce yourself. Say hello, Richard Betts.
Self-described professional wino. Mind the spelling, W-I-N-E-A-U-X.
And then we have Allie Griffel here to taste the wines. She's in the baseball world, and she can tell you, if she wants to, how she is, or maybe not. And then we have Nolan, our new intern, that started his own business. Introduce yourselves.
I'm Nolan. I started a business here. I go to ASU, so just kind of a young entrepreneur trying to make it.
All right.
There you go.
There we go. And so Arizona Wine Month.
This is
what does this mean?
Wine Month.
What does it mean? What does it mean? Can you tell us?
Well, you know, this started last year, and the governor at the time, and the new governor, declared Arizona Wine Month. March every year. The industry is still fairly young, having really not started till like the early 80s, really. But here's I got a little sheet here. We're going to read about Arizona wine history and stats. 1700 Spanish settlers and missionaries introduced viticulture around Tucson area. Arizona, part of the Gadsden Purchase following the Mexican-American War of the 1800s. Gold and silver discoveries, influx of new prospectors and settlers, blah, blah, blah. Saloons and restaurants were erected, a thirst for finer things, including beer and whiskey. Homesteaders in Phoenix area planting orchards and farms, growing population. Late 1800s, James Cotton, Phoenix saloon owner, making his own wine. The Bagley brothers, first commercial winery in Mesa, and Henry Sherman, present-day Sedona, established a substantial winery supplying the miners in Jerome. Early 1900s, Arizona was enjoying rapid wine industry growth until 1915. Arizona voted in prohibition 5 years before the entire country in 1920. 5 years before.
Winery we were 5 years earlier than
than the rest of the country. Winery shut down, vineyards uprooted, AZ wine industry gone. 1933, Prohibition ended. It would take decades to see wines take root again here. Early 1970s, Dr. Gordon Dutt, soil scientist with grant dollars from U of A and help from the Brophy family.
Really?
Discovered the area's winemaking potential. This is down in Sonoy Elgin, and launched Arizona's first modern winery, being a Sonoyta winery. So,
which is where Sam Pillsbury has his wine.
No, I'm not in Sonoma. I'm in Wilcox.
Wilcox.
This is south.
But
southeast of Tucson.
It's an hour and 20 minutes drive.
So, so there's 3 official AVAs, American Viticultural areas, that are donated or designated by the federal government. 1984, Sonoyta was the first. 2016, Wilcox, where Sam is, and 2021, just 2 years ago, the Verde Valley. You know,
big deal.
So, by comparison, Napa and Sonoma were awarded in 1981. The New York Finger Lakes, 1982. So this is still, but you think about Oregon, for instance. The wine industry there started in the '60s. Certainly, when I was in Napa in 1974, it had already started, but it was still relatively young.
So do you know how Sam got into making wine?
Yes, I do. But one more thing. This is
Okay.
really interesting. The financial impact. There are now 125 wineries, which including meat and sacchery, with a license. 52 independent vineyards, 32,000 jobs created, 1.5 billion annual wages, 175,000 tourism visits, which equals 160 million tourism dollars and growing, and a 4.2 billion annual impact.
Wow.
That's why we have Arizona Wine Month.
That's
I
amazing.
Okay.
love it.
Nice.
Look, my vineyard's is 15 miles south of Wilcox, which is a very small rural town. Not a lot of people in it, and we employ up to.
How many acres do you have?
500 acres. We employ
Same.
between 5 and 25 people.
Wow.
We employ a lot of people.
Yeah.
There was a 3-mile dirt road leading to our place, and the county paved it. And when they finished, I was like,
Wow.
Yeah.
I was talking to them. I said, I thank you for paving the road. You didn't have to put in a landing strip. It's like
Right.
it's like 3 lanes wide practically. And they said, we believe in you guys, Sam. And
Oh,
we
that's
we
nice.
produce tax income.
Oh,
and
people
we
love
pay
Sam.
wages.
Yeah.
We buy things. We pay sales tax on liquor, and there's 130 bonded wineries in the state.
And
now.
third now, it's always growing.
Yeah.
I think
Great.
people love
It's a
Sam
good
because
day.
he has such the passion for
Right.
the wine,
Well,
and he's funny, and you say it like it is,
Well, that's
like-
for sure.
and he's a big flirt.
Yeah. Harmless flirt might be a way of putting it. But I planted my first vines in Wilcox 23 years ago, and there was really literally one vineyard in that whole
It's
the whole
incredible.
of Cochise County.
Yeah.
How many different wines now are you making?
I make we grow about 13 varieties. I make about 16 different wines, and it's a lot. But nobody's ever grown wine in this place before, so we're just into finding out what works, And it's really quite peculiar because everyone initially thought, including me, and I'm a big fan of Rhone wines, southern wines from the south of France.
Mm-hmm.
So we all pretty much figured that Mediterranean would work, and it does. But our Pinot Gris twice been served at White House state dinners. Our Chardonnay is astonishing. It's not.
Tell us about the awards. What awards have you won? With
I've
your
won
wines?
100 awards in the San Francisco Chronicle in 7 years.
It's
the
incredible.
biggest, toughest wine
Fantastic.
competition in the United States
Yes,
of America.
it's the #1 competition.
And also,
It's
Sam,
huge.
tell them why Arizona, how you started Arizona to even make wine.
Well,
in
what
Arizona.
happened was there was a vineyard that had been planted about 30 years ago that's now across the street from me, and I tasted a Chardonnay that came from fruit that was grown on that property in 2019. No, wait a second. 1999.
Yeah.
I'm still jet lagged from flying back.
Yeah, he just got back from New Zealand.
Oh, wow.
He has a property in New Zealand.
And it was in 25 years was the best Chardonnay I'd ever tasted. And I knew it was terroir. You know what terroir is, right? It's a French word that means
ground,
soil, but it
the
means
soil.
everything about that place.
Oh,
And
That's what creates the wine, the terroir.
yeah.
Yes.
And like in France, they're called first growth vineyard is the one that always produces the best wine every year, and it produces better wine than the ones on the right and the left of it. It's just there's all those things about that spot: the angle to the sun, the way the wind blows on it on March 29th, the way the snow, all that kind of stuff. And this is one of those places. So I tasted this Chard from this place. It was a $12 bottle that I bought at Smitty's on the corner of Tatum and Shea in 1999.
It was Callaghan, right? Ken Callaghan made
Well,
it?
Callaghan made it. It was
Yeah.
it was from a vineyard that was called Dos Cabezas.
Okay.
I drove down the
right.
next day and bought 40 acres next door to the Sky.
Because you thought it was delicious?
Oh, the wine was extraordinary, and I knew about Chardonnay. It was amazing.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
I bought 40 acres next door next to Al, who owned Dos Cabezas, and then he and I went into partnership, and I planted 20 acres of Rhone varieties in 2000.
Are there any acres left I can buy?
Yeah, there's plenty of acres down in Wilcox.
Yeah.
Okay,
And it's
okay,
not
next to
expensive.
you?
I bought.
Can I be your neighbor?
If you can buy land next to me, you can.
You can't buy it for $400 an acre anymore, though.
I bought 100 acres of some of the best wine growing property in the United States of America with a barn, a well,
Wow.
and a house and
Wow.
3-phase power for what you pay for 1 acre of land in Napa.
Oh, my
Wow,
Yeah.
it's
And
incredible.
I've got best of class, double golds, you name it. I mean, it's
Nolan,
just
what do you think about all this? Do you have a
I
question
think
for
it's
Sam?
incredible. I mean, how do you deal with not having as much water here as
Yeah,
you
well,
would?
oh,
in
no,
other
well,
places?
Smart question.
Well, no, that's a good question. But here,
great question.
whereas here, there's different parts of Arizona. We have wells,
Mhm.
so we're okay. I mean,
Mhm.
there's people sucking the water out of the ground to grow alfalfa to feed milk, to feed
Yeah.
cows that produce milk,
That's
which
right.
is destroying all the little guys. But I have enough money to drill deeper wells. But we're trying to put a stop to that crap. It's just totally unfair.
Oh, so you do
Yeah.
have money.
I made a profit. I planted my first vines in 2000. I made my first profit a year ago.
I
It's a
adore
pretty
you.
long wait.
Yeah. Okay, so
Go for
Chet,
it, Chet.
thanks, Nolan. Your first day was great on the job.
Yeah.
Woo! Thanks, Nolan.
We only got 10 minutes.
Wait, how do we find your business, Nolan?
It's online. It's saltyfriend.com.
Saltyfriend.com.
Yep, that's the website.
Okay.
We deliver water softener salt. So
Oh, cool.
check it out. You'd sign up.
At only, are you 19?
I'm 18.
At 18, starting a job, a business. Thank you. You're amazing. New
Thank
intern.
you.
Thank you. All right. Chet,
Yeah, I was
welcome.
late because I Ubered because I don't know. So a little wholesome note: don't drink and drive. If you're gonna drink, you should Uber. You know,
That's
even
right.
if it's one glass. I
She's
really-
my Uber today.
Yeah.
Yes.
She-
That's why I'm
smart.
doing light
she's
boards.
driving the
Yeah,
White
smart.
Sox Tahoe.
Tahoe,
Yeah.
Yes, and she's
Yes.
driving us. So anyway,
Yeah.
so Chet, we're drinking Sam Pillsbury wines.
I know.
love
I'm
his
excited
wines.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're his favorite wines.
Thank you.
Well, he obviously is a man of exquisite taste.
Good to see you, though, Sam. Cheers.
Same here, bud.
Cheers.
So this is a French aromatic, a Southern Rhone variety called Viognier,
Viognier.
and it's spelled Viognier. And somebody opened a restaurant in Napa Valley called Viognier, and it went out of business because nobody could pronounce the name for the taxi driver.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's true.
Oh my goodness.
That's actually
Wow.
hilarious.
And our second vintage of this, which was back in, I don't know, 06, 07, Mark Tabell said was the best Viognier in the United States of America, and it's got better ever since.
I just hung out with Mark Tarbell.
Okay.
It's delicious.
Anyway, I mean, there's a couple of things I want to say that are really important to me. First of all, the amount of ridicule I've had, people laughing in my face for nearly 2 decades. You must be effing insane growing wine grapes in the state of Arizona. Okay, let me tell you a couple of things.
Yeah.
All Vitis vinifera originated in the Middle East in southeastern Anatolia. They like the desert. Wine grapes do not like fertile soil, okay? Secondly, in order to grow wine in this state, you have to go high altitude. When you go high altitude, everything changes. Almost all vineyards in the world are below 500 feet above sea level. We're at 4,500 feet. Every 1,000 feet you go up, you get 10% more UV. We get 40 to 45% more UV than almost any other vineyards in the world. Do you know what that does to the wine? It makes it taste better. And I never knew why. I just knew it tasted better when I bought this in. 6 months ago, this big scientific report came out, and you know what it said? It said high altitude vineyards, the phenolics
Yeah.
on wine
This is true all over the world.
are way,
Yeah.
and there's just not that
Yeah,
many.
yeah,
I mean,
there's
high
not that
altitude
many,
in Italy
no.
is two.
We are some of the highest vineyards in the world here.
Yeah, the Alto Adige in Italy is 2,200 feet above sea level. High altitude in France is 2,200. We're 4,500. And all this research just came out, and it was so funny for me because all these years people have been laughing at me, and I'm getting these awards, and my friends I sell grapes to, and they say, you can't pick your Syrah 23 bricks of phenolics. Wouldn't have had a chance to develop, but I'm going, well, it tastes pretty good to me, and it's also got a lot of awards.
This is delicious, by the way. This is
I think
delicious.
this would pair really well with some seafood.
Yes.
Pan-seared scallops.
Yes.
Oh,
that sounds
perfect.
phenomenal.
Oh,
my
definitely.
Not too
Scallops.
fishy, a little bit of,
I was
slightly
thinking that
sweet
or like
kind
a
of
sea
veg-
bass.
Yeah,
maybe.
oh yeah,
Oh,
oh
yeah,
no, sure.
she's had a good
The
one.
For sure, this is delicious.
Yeah, very good.
Mmm, yummy.
But anyway, this research came out and it said, guess what? This is what happens at these altitudes, and the phenolics, which is basically the flavor, the yummy part of wine.
Yep.
Also, I grow cucumbers, and I don't like to peel them. I have to peel my cucumbers. Why? Because the skins are too thick.
Right.
Because of the sun. Guess what's in wine grape skins? Everything. Smell,
Yeah.
color, aroma,
That's
taste.
right.
So we have this kind of miracle. This is like this incredibly cheap land that is producing some of the best wines. in
How much
the
is an
country.
acre there now?
It depends.
Next to you, if I can go
let's
get
say
5 acres.
between $2,000 and $4,000, depending.
That's it?
Depending on whether
Yeah.
there's power
Yeah.
and water there.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
What?
Yeah.
It's starting to go up, but it's taken a long time. You know,
Right.
like people.
I'm driving there this weekend.
Okay, sure. I mean, there's land for sale. There's houses there. So basically.
What?
And was
Oh my
you know what
goodness.
else was interesting about this research was they also said, guess what? Do you know why New Zealand wines are so good? And I'm thinking, I don't know. And they said there's almost no ozone layer in New Zealand, and there's no pollution. So New Zealand vineyards at 800 feet above sea level are getting way more UV than most other vineyards in the world. So, it's really fascinating. And okay, a couple of things briefly. This is a very delicate wine. This is Viognier.
It's so delicious. I love it.
You know, I often say that everybody knows how to drink wine. Most people don't know how to taste wine. Okay, and this glass, for example, is a good example. This is really important.
Okay.
You need a stem so you don't change the temperature of the wine. You can look at it. You can swirl it. This releases the aroma. The shape of the glass funnels it to your nose. Smell is 80% of your taste. If it's a good wine, if you do that, it'll taste better. If it's not a good wine, well, that's one of the ways of figuring out whether it's a good wine or not. And
So if it doesn't smell good, it's not a good wine.
well, it'll.
That makes sense.
No, it's more complex than that. This is has a very complex nose, and your nose has a lot more processors in it than your mouth does. So this will help you understand something that has complexity. Complexity is very important for me. I don't anywhere where there's endless sunshine, California, Australia, Arizona. You can make big wines because the sun doesn't shine hard in France. They have struggles ripening wines, so that's why their wines are more delicate and go better with food. So the first thing that happens is when Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon, you drink those, you can't taste anything. So I make this differentiation between what I call cocktail wines and food wines. And a cocktail wine, fine to have an oaky buttery shard, fine to have a blockbuster cab.
Like a Romberg, for example.
Well, sure, exactly. But have it as a cocktail. You can't eat it with any food because food is cloying. You don't want to put a cloying wine in your mouth after having some cloying food. I'm a chef as well. And so what I do is I make wines that are lean and clean and delicate, and they'll refresh your palate every time you put a piece of food in your mouth.
So are you saying that the California wines are a little bit too unctuous?
Well, that's a generalization, but historically they've been very big, and I think I know why. I think if you're introducing, in one sec, I think if you're introducing wines to a bunch of Americans who grew up on beer and Coca-Cola, you want to do big flavor, so to catch them. This is a more elegant, sophisticated way to go.
Right.
And there's one more thing I want to say, but go ahead.
Well, this trend in California really didn't start till the 80s when
It'll sound clear.
My
and
first
crisp.
what?
It'll sound more clear and crisp if you go closer. You'll sound better.
Hello, darling. My first wine gig was in 1974 in Napa in Santa Elena, working a crush at the Louis Martini winery. Now, back then, the wines were just like they make them in France. They were 12.5 alcohol, high acidity, high tannin. You had to sit them down for 2-3 years before you could drink them. They were making wines in the European style then. It wasn't, and that's why the Taste of Paris, that famous tasting,
Where the California wines beat all the French wines.
yeah, right, in blind tasting by French judges, that wouldn't have happened otherwise. You see, so but in the 80s, the trend started to change, to making riper style, more higher alcoholic. And Robert Parker, who was became the preeminent wine critic in the world.
He liked the biggies.
He liked those biggies.
So those guys,
Such as-
they get a
So-
good review, you make
Or
a
like what?
fortune.
All of them. So all the
Silver
California wines started getting more
Classic.
oak.
Yes. Silver oak. Okay.
Later harvest, higher alcohol, higher sugars, higher
See,
alcohol.
I love those wines, but
Well, who doesn't?
but I love
But
Sam
this is
Pillsbury
what
wines.
this is.
Well, this is a different
This
style,
is where
that's all.
you were talking.
But you
This
can
is
like
where-
you can like all
this
kinds
is
of
where
things like that.
cocktail wines were born.
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
And
and they're fine.
And these are food wines.
And these are food wines, and European wines are food wines traditionally.
If you go into a wine place or a supermarket and you see a French wine and it says the word Chardonnay written on it, or that already means it was made for the American market, because they don't call it Chardonnay, they call it Chablis or wherever it came from, because French wine's based on the region. But also any red wine, any French red wine,
Like a Sancerre. That's like a Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah, sure.
I love Sancerre.
I do too.
Okay.
Look at some of the French red wines. If it's 14.5% alcohol, it was made for the American market. It's hilarious, because Americans like everything to be bigger. Why does somebody drive a F-250 pickup truck to do their grocery shopping? I mean, it's just ridiculous, Anyway, I believe in restraint. I'll just say one more thing about general philosophy, and then we can talk about the wine. Another thing that's very important for me is I always felt there's too much generic food and wine in the world, so I only make wine that we grow organically on our property.
Organic, that's a key.
Only
That's
make
huge.
wine that we
Huge.
grow. We hand harvest everything, we hand sort, we hand prune, we ferment all of our wines with the wild yeast that comes in on our fruit from our property. So
It's
everything
amazing.
about our wines were made by a person and come from a place,
Right.
and they're unique. We never use new oak. Why would you make a wine in Arizona that tastes of a tree in Kentucky? I don't get it, you know. I just don't get it at all.
True.
Good wine shouldn't have oak, you know. I was with our distributor once, and she was talking about she went to this a winery in Napa that was it was a cult wine, and they were making this cab, and they had these bags of yeast hanging into the tank. I said, they weren't bags of yeast, they were oak chips. They
Yep.
flavor their
Yep.
fucking wine, you know. It's disgusting, you know.
So it was very interesting that you found out that the scientific data proved your theory that the higher elevation yielded better wines. But what initially led you to that realization?
I tasted it.
Okay.
I tasted this Chardonnay I bought for $12 in 1999. It was a 97 Chard, and it was grown across the road from where I am now. And in 25 years, I had never tasted anything like it, and I knew it was terroir. And I
It was
trusted
right
my,
then and there. You're
Oh,
like, it's this
I
spot.
bought
It's great.
100 acres of land and planted 14,000 vines. I mean,
Wow.
it was insane, you know.
Mhm.
But turned out to be right. You know?
I'm going there this weekend to buy land. What is the next wine we can taste?
Okay, well, that's the Viognier. This is okay. It's Southern aromatic. Now you'll notice it's very delicate. I try not to make the wine exactly the same every year. I
love that.
I'm trying to find out where the sweet spot is, and sometimes it kind of goofs a bit. But my joke is always it's like with behavior with other people. You only know where the line is if you cross it.
There you go.
Exactly.
And he loves to cross that line.
Yeah.
That's what I
I do.
love about Sam.
I do. So
He's really fun.
So this year when we're blending this our whites in 2 weeks. We're gonna go for a slightly richer style, not a blockbuster style, but this is so delicate. You really have to drink a couple of glasses of this, I think, before you can actually really taste it. But I think it's
This
good.
one? I
think it's
love
good.
this.
Okay.
But I would like to
Delicious.
hear the wine guru Richard describe this wine we just tasted, the Viognier.
It's aromatic.
Okay.
First of all, you get a lot of floral nose, aromatic. So you get, kind of.
I keep getting frangipani.
That's a good one. Yeah.
So,
But you're getting
South Pacific
you're getting-
Island flower. you know.
Yeah, something exotic. But you're getting basically, stone fruits like apricot, peach, honeysuckle.
I taste the honeysuckle,
yeah,
yes.
those kind of things. Yeah.
What about, I
But, you
taste some
know,
pear.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah,
fine.
pear.
To
Mhm.
me, I don't care about what a wine tastes like to somebody else. I'm more interested in the structure of the wine,
But I care,
the
and that's why I'm asking
texture.
you.
Yeah, so I
Well, also
I
people-
don't-
I
really,
care.
to
No,
me,
but you
that's-
get different
yeah.
things. Whatever
Yes.
you get is
Yeah.
valid. I mean,
Yes.
This is
you know,
why,
yeah.
to me, when I'm tasting a wine,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm judging or just tasting for my own pleasure, is okay. What's the texture like? How,
Mhm.
what's again? We're going back to, complexity,
Mm-hmm.
texture,
Nuance,
nuance.
aroma,
Yeah,
delicacy.
exactly.
Yeah.
These are the things that make an impression on me. Like in a wine like this, a white wine, the word tension is really important. It's that
Mm,
tension between the
Interesting.
fruit and the acidity. Acidity is so important, right?
It's what they call balance. I get a
Yeah.
lot of
I feel like it's
compliments
very
about
balanced,
balance.
actually.
Yeah.
It's very balanced in my
And
opinion.
because
So,
of that,
yeah.
it's kind of refreshing almost.
Well,
like-
yeah, I want
That's
to
why-
refresh your palate. Like if you put a barbecued salmon in your mouth, you've got wood smoke and whatever the herbs are and
Mhm.
fish oil. You want to put a more cloying stuff in
Delicate.
your mouth. You want to clean it and balance it with
Yeah,
something.
that's
My
the whole-
Chardonnay
yeah.
goes with grilled salmon like to die for.
Oh, I agree. I love it. Absolutely love it. So we're gonna taste next. What
Was
is
that
this
a
one called?
segue into
So this one's
Inappropriate.
So wait, this first one is not a Chardonnay. It was
No, it's
more like-
Viognier.
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 Can we
Okay.
pass the bottle to her,
Yeah.
to Allie
I'm gonna
Griffel
do
so she
that
can
right now,
read it?
This is a
Yeah.
southern
Good to see you,
run
by the way.
aromatic.
I know.
Aromatic wine, yeah.
There you go.
Oh, thank you.
You can pass it
Oh, okay,
on.
pass it on. All right. So here we go. Take your last sip.
Very good.
Or here,
Another
I
thing
have
to
a
look
big cup
for-
too, a dump
So
cup.
Nolan, you could be commenting on Instagram,
Another
Yes,
thing
he's
to
got
look
this
for
going.
when you're tasting
asking
wine
questions.
is notice how long you can taste it after you've finished it. That's called finish.
Finish, very
Okay.
important.
You can taste these wines for 5 minutes after
Yeah,
you.
if you really want to get technical in wine tasting, there's the attack
Oh, I love that.
The front of the palate.
Front of the palate, there's the mid palate, and then there's the
which
finish.
should go like that, and then the finish should just kind of drip.
Right.
Very
That's
slow.
what I thought with this first one.
Yeah, yeah.
Now you
Right.
just
They all-
judged in Arizona.
Yeah,
wine
this
competition.
year,
What was it?
a couple of weeks ago, and again, this happens now in March.
Mm-hmm.
So, beginning of March, about 24 wine professionals from Phoenix got together and tasted 100 or so Arizona wines.
Wow.
Split up into
So you're
groups.
obviously spitting it out if you're a
of
pro.
course, yeah.
Okay.
No,
As a pro, you'd be
you're
spitting it
tasting
out.
50 wines.
Kinga wouldn't. She would swallow.
No,
it.
no.
I would. He
You
thinks
would go to a trade tasting where you're tasting 300 wines in an afternoon and drink every one of them. I know. But no, you have to. You have to be mindful of your palate when you're
Yes.
tasting that many wines, right? And
Yes.
At a
mixing
certain
with
point,
water.
also, you might just get what you call palate fatigue.
Yeah.
Strange
So you
enough,
take
a
a break.
little bit of a bone dry Provençal style rosé will actually can save your palate
Yeah.
sometimes.
Okay.
Because we taste sometimes for 3 or 4 days when we're doing our blending for just
Yeah.
for one
Yeah.
variety sometimes.
Also important to drink water.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Stay hydrated while you're tasting.
Well,
Anyway,
Richard and I were just at the Mick. I want to mention the Mick
Yeah.
because they were so good to us, and Janice
They
got
have a
us
great
our
wine program there.
right, and she got us the best seats, and
I'm doing a dinner there. Right?
You do.
I know we're
dinner
going to.
there.
I know we're
Yeah.
going there. She told us. Janet
Yeah.
told us.
We're going.
And so Brett, how do you pronounce his last name? Menke.
Yeah, Menke.
Menke,
Mhm.
an awesome guy.
Jeff Menke.
Jeff Menke. He's a really
Menzer. It's
Oh
Menzer.
no, Jeff Mendes the cork dork. I thought you were talking about Menke, who's the chef.
No, Brent
Oh,
Menke is
Brent
the owner.
Is
He's
one
the
of the
owner
owners.
and the,
Oh, yeah.
and the
Oh, yeah.
chef
Yeah.
owner.
But Jeff, the sommelier,
Jeff
the
Menzer is
wine
the
director.
sommelier.
is
Okay,
Jeff
okay.
Menzer,
Well,
yeah.
anyway, so I was excited for the finals. It ended up being Laura Bruno, a good friend of mine who runs Sanctuary's program, the wine program there, and then Daniel Weber, another great friend of mine that is at Maple and Ash. I've introduced Richard to both of those because friends of mine, and so we went to this dinner, and what an amazing night that was.
It was.
That food is
The
very
food was incredible. Wow. And the
This is-
winner was
It was Daniel.
Daniel Weber,
Yeah.
Maple and Ash.
The Somm crawl. So the idea is that you get a bunch of professional somms in town, and you have these dinners
They pick
that
the
are
pairings.
4 course, and they
Yeah.
pick the pairings.
It's so much fun.
And then the people
Yes.
eating the dinner, vote. They pick their favorite, for
Yes.
and then you get points. At the end of the sum has the most point wins. And so they went through this whole thing, with I don't know how many sums they started with, but then you had quarterfinals, semifinals, and this last one we went to last week was the.
I went to
finals.
almost every one of the dinners,
Yeah.
but they were sold out for the finals.
Yeah, it's
But then Janet
amazing.
called me and said,
Yeah.
"We're making a spot for you, and you can bring a friend." So I called
So-
Richard because
Wait,
Richard's
I want
been
to
so
hear.
good to me.
I want to hear Sam go into detail about the inappropriate.
Okay.
Okay, next one.
Okay, well, it's got a
Good.
kind
It would be
Good segue.
appropriate
Good
to
segue.
hear about the inappropriate.
Okay, well, it's got a complex history because we're always discovering
it's called.
stuff.
Oh, okay.
Most of our wines are based on classical profiles. The Wild Child White, the Wild Child Red, and the Inappropriate are all my inventions. So we just have fun with those ones. And where that comes from, first of all of the names of our wines are based on real things. Like Wild Child White Wild Child Wine has 3 reasons for being called that. The first one was made from an abandoned vineyard.
And then you met me,
and then
you're like, "Okay, well, tell."
No. I wanted to be able to make any kind of blend I wanted from it, so I had the freedom with a Wild Child to do that. And also, my wife and I just had a little kid, so it was
Aw.
and all of our names. Inappropriate, slightly different. What Inappropriate
Love
is? It
Inappropriate.
started out as it's a blend of Malvasia Bianca and Symphony, and they're both aromatic whites. They're both quite intense, and the tendency to make them into dessert wines or fruit bombs is quite powerful. I pick my aromatics early so they're more delicate, but they have more complexity then because they're not just one flavor that blows your head off. So we were making wine with Symphony, which is a grape that was developed by UC Davis, a cross of Grenache Gris and Muscat of Alexandria. And it smells very muscatty and tastes somewhat. And we called it Symphony, but people thought it was a fanciful name, and so they didn't realize it was a varietal name. And once they tasted it, it was fun. I thought, why don't we just change the name? I thought it was kind of so we did a blend. We did a blend with Symphony and Malvasia Bianca, which we've twice won Best of Class in the San Francisco
That's a
Chronicle.
class.
Nice.
That's a class.
And-
Woo,
and-
cheers to that.
And so I don't really know anyone else who makes a wine that's made up of 2 aromatics. Because usually they're just a dominant one. They're either dominant or 100% varietal, but it's also called Inappropriate because of moi. Don't fucking-
Cheers, because Sam
This-
Pillsbury is very inappropriate, and that's what we love about him.
This just
That's
won
what
a,
makes him Sam Pillsbury.
this just won a gold medal in the San Francisco Chronicles.
I know it did. I know, that's what we were talking about.
Sam
And-
Pillsbury makes being inappropriate appropriate.
There we go.
It's a funny word because
Right?
it's actually got
It is.
negative connotations. What it really means is, in the company that it comes up, they didn't like it. That might have been a really good thing to do, depending on the company. So it doesn't mean bad. It just
No.
means out of balance with the environment.
Well,
So
I
what are
think-
some of your favorite dishes to pair with this?
Good question.
A lot of the white aromatics, bone dry again. They go really well with spicier Asian food, like spicy stir fry, Thai food maybe.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
Because you need something to cope with the attack of the food. Whereas I said for the viognier, scallops, not too, maybe a little tiny bit of garlic, flash fried, actually a touch of peach juice.
See, he's a chef too.
Yes.
Oh my gosh,
yes,
his
yes.
food is so good. Mm. Really good food.
But that's a much more delicate food to go with a more delicate wine. Another thing we do that's quite interesting is I don't like drinking red wines in this. I don't drink red so much anymore. I drink
You
mostly
like
whites.
whites.
I like cool.
Same here.
Me too, I like
But
Same
so we quite often I cook a lot at the winery, but when we have a tasting room, you always have like 10 or 12 or 14 open bottles. So when I cook dinner, we get to try different wines without having to open a whole lot of bottles, and we're finding quite a lot of my whites will go quite well with food that people normally would think of having a red wine for, even steak, for example, because of the good acidity and the crispness and some of the attack of the fruit. So it's the wine pairing. People say, oh, compare a big wine with a big dish with a big wine, like Shiraz or Cab with a steak. Not necessarily. Sometimes you do contrast pairings instead of complementary pairings.
Yeah, this would be really good with like a New York strip or something.
Why not?
What has the attack?
The old rules are no longer,
What's really
valid.
appropriate
Yeah.
anymore? We can be inappropriate,
Yeah.
There we go.
right?
Yeah, the old rules, like
Cheers.
red wine with
splash
steak.
of it, will ya? Just-
Let's be inappropriate. Not why be appropriate when we can be inappropriate?
That's good. That's good.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Woo. Richard?
I just got a bit of pineapple on the nose.
Oh, I definitely taste
Yeah.
pineapple. Mm.
It also depends on your mood and what you had for lunch. How you taste. But
It tastes vanilla too.
a little bit. And anyone whatever you get is valid. That's what your palate's telling you. We sometimes get weird stuff. I was once doing blending trials with Eric Glomsky from Page Mix, and I kept getting
I love Eric Glomsky.
pine tar and
Pine tar.
yeah, and I kept getting it, and then and we did. I did for 3 reds. If I'm getting pine tar, and he said, "You always get pine tar." And I go, "Yeah, that's what I'm getting." When I felt it afterwards, I was using this shampoo that had pine tar in it, and it was on my fingers.
Oh my
See?
God.
Yep. That can affect your palate.
That's why you don't want scented candles in your house. You don't want any of that crap. Just let this stuff tell you what it needs to tell you.
So I love that. So
Well, it's so interesting. Oh, I didn't mean to
go,
cut you
no,
off.
no, go ahead.
That's so interesting you said pineapple because I was like trying to think of what fruit it was that was like kind of in my brain, but I wasn't able to find it, and it was pineapple.
That's why it's so much
Yeah.
fun to taste with a bunch of people because
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
someone will say something and of course,
Yeah,
but
that's what
you
I
put-
had that moment when
yeah,
you said
no.
it. Yeah.
Some people, Eric Glomsky is amazing. He'll go
great.
do like 7 things. I'm like, holy crap, he's right.
One of the fascinating things about wine is the fact that you take this one grape and you make a wine of it, and it's all of a sudden, you're experiencing all these different flavors. The issue that I have with that is that some people, they'll say, "Oh, I don't taste that. What's wrong with me?"
Oh, no.
You know what I mean?
Mhm, mhm.
So that,
Can I tell a funny story?
Yes.
It was Chet's birthday a couple weeks ago, and I I'm a foodie. I go to a lot of restaurants, as you know, every single night. And so I was at Vincent's for his birthday because that's where Chet said he wanted to go because we love Howie. Chet said, "I want to sit with Howie. I want to go to Vincent's."
Well, we
And
love
so-
Vincent.
Yes, and Vincent. We love Vincent. So a few nights before his birthday, I went there to figure out what table we were going to sit at. And Howie brought me this really good wine. I go, "This is so delicious." And so he was reading to me or telling me what the flavors of the wine. And then we read the bottle, and one of the words to describe it was graham cracker. And so I was like, graham cracker? I don't taste graham cracker in this wine. But anyway, I memorized everything on the bottle. And then I pulled a joke on Chet, a few days later at his birthday party. I said, I had the wine bottle nowhere near me, and I go, I really taste.
Well, no, we all said
And I
we
go,
were gonna-
graham cracker, and Chet goes, wow, there's no graham cracker in this. And then I go,
Well, no,
really?
you're not
I go,
even
let's
telling
read the
story
bottle.
properly. We actually all said we were gonna like give our description of the wine, and so
Yeah.
she like listed all the things on the bottle. Then we said, "Oh, let's grab the bottle now to check." So she actually did the bit pretty well.
Yeah.
Because
I'll tell you something about putting those things
It's a
on the
graham
bottle. No, but here's what happens. Several years ago, it used to take 3 months to get permission from the Fed to write the back label.
Mm-hmm.
They do it really quickly now, but even so, when you have to order the label to be printed for when you're bottling, and quite often when you're bottling, the wine doesn't taste the same as when it's been in the bottle for 6 months. So you write all these notes about the flavors that are there, and they're not necessarily true anymore. So I tend to veer away from that a little bit, because they can change a lot. I mean, sometimes enormously, usually not, but sometimes.
But then when you kind of start thinking graham cracker, you start tasting it. When you read it, then you
It's
taste
like
it.
a
But
psychological
Chet
thing.
thought it was funny. Chet thought it was funny
Certainly.
because I memorized every word on that bottle of the description. You thought it was funny. Did you
Yeah,
think
it
it's funny?
was funny.
It's funny. I played a joke
I
on
don't
it.
know, I get it.
Yeah,
It was pretty
you
funny.
train your palate to identify certain odors and tastes too. They actually have kits that professionals use, To,
I have them.
Yeah, you have.
A little box
know,
with little tiny.
and they can be
flavor
very
things.
helpful just to give you that, that
Training.
association that you can develop. If you're interested in that sort of thing, or you can just sit back and enjoy the wine and say, "Man, that tastes good."
Which is
Yeah.
the most important.
Period.
Right.
Right, exactly.
I love the taste
Exactly.
of that.
Right.
Okay,
What's
so-
it
so-
taste like? It tastes like a good wine.
What's the next one we're gonna try?
It's a Cote de Rhone. We call it Rhone Red.
Okay, red. Everybody, clear your
You'll
glasses.
notice the glasses and the bottles all have this horse on it, and it's a play on words because I can't put RHONE on a label. That's
No.
against that. Like you can't put champagne on a label. Those
Okay.
you have to. It
Right.
has to be French. Has to come from the Rhone Valley. So we call it ROAN Red. And once again, there's 3 reasons. I always had Rhone horses when I was a kid. The vineyard used to be a horse ranch called Spanish Pit Ranch, and a Rhone is a brownish horse, and
Really?
So we've got Rhone horses on all our glasses and on
On the bottle.
the label.
That's so
it's a bit
special. I did not
obscure.
know
but
that.
It's
Yeah.
obscure, but there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's amazing.
That's
So
great.
so
That's
this
cool.
this wine is an Arizona version of a southern Rhone wine called Cote de Rhone. Cote de Rhone means the hills of the Rhone Valley, and it's always what they call a GSM. It's always a blend of Grenache, Syrah, Mourvedre, which I grow. It's also it's a medium-bodied, medium-level French wine. The thing about it is it goes with everything. I've been making this since 2006. Tarbell gave me a 93 out the gate for this one.
Wow.
And it's just my favorite one. I kind of made it to go with roast lamb because of growing up in New Zealand. But have a little bit in your glasses. And
I'll pass it down. You guys start.
I'm just
So
following
it's interesting because the Arizona wines to me are my favorite. I love the Arizona wines, and Rich and I will frequent different places. And I'm not going to say the place, and please don't say the place, but we were at a really nice establishment recently, and we asked for the sommelier that he's friends with, and I know too because I go to this place. And he wanted to do a show, and then so when I texted him with Richard, he was planning on being on, and I said, well, we're going to feature Arizona wines this month. And so then he texted me back and he said, I'm not a fan of Arizona wine, so I'll wait till next month. And so Richard and I were like flabbergasted that that's
the world is full of idiots.
right.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, why are you
Yeah.
bringing up a
Ignorance.
Debbie Downer?
Oh, I know. I probably shouldn't bring it up.
Well, no, this is
No, that's
interesting.
okay.
This,
No,
this
it's
brings up a
educational.
very
But I've been,
interesting
brought it up.
I've been
topic.
dealing with this for 20 years.
No,
I
but
mean,
it's
I-
an educational
yeah.
part.
But now there's so many people who appreciate Arizona wines.
Yes,
so
they
let's
do.
just
Right.
talk about that.
Well, but this is a very Arizona property, and this
No,
is
this
a
brings
song.
up-
also,
It's telling people.
the higher end people tend to be more snobby about it,
Oh,
generally
yeah.
speaking. Not always, but quite often.
This brings up the whole issue of terroir again.
Exactly.
So people expect, Arizona's a relatively new wine growing area, although it has achieved the reputation among professionals worldwide of being a world-class wine producing region.
It
Okay,
is.
So, but if you're used to drinking California wines or whatever, you drink Arizona wines, they taste different, and they should, because they are a different terroir.
Terroir.
And
This is why
the
California
soil.
wines don't taste
Yes.
like European wines.
and that's really important, and it's something that I
Yes.
honor. What's
Wow,
interesting
this is
is
delicious.
I find a lot of
Wow.
Soms, a surprising percentage of Soms who drink my wine don't know how to process it, and it's
Yeah.
not even that they say it's not a good wine; they just look confused. Do you know who Ian Cowbell is? He's one of the
Yes.
Soms in the documentary
Yeah,
Som. We blind tasted him on my wine,
Yeah.
and this guy's really good because
He's a master Som.
we pulled a 27-year-old left bank French wine out and got him to in 20 minutes. He came within 2 years of the vintage and a mile of where the vineyard grows. That's what they can do.
Really?
Oh,
He,
yeah.
he drank my wines and he did not know he couldn't figure out where they were from, which means he's really good because he knew,
Yep.
because it was different. And
Yeah.
he said
Yeah.
this tastes a bit like an Australian
Yeah.
red. Well, he was drinking a Shiraz, which
This
was
is
made
so
from
good.
an Australian Syrah clone, and our terroir is very similar to a lot of the Arizona, a lot of the Australian.
Yeah.
So it's just really interesting to see these things happening. A lot of these guys that are super trained have actually can't think outside their boxes. That's
Yeah.
why.
Right.
But
I have good news. There's a new sommelier that's at Tarbell's. Jason, I can't think of his last name. He's got a very nice accent, very good looking, and he's very supportive of Arizona wines.
Yeah, there
and
are.
very.
Yeah.
He's great. I
the
love
point
him.
is, Arizona
guy.
is
That's
developing, its own style of wine. Arizona
Yes.
has a unique
It's
terroir
distinct, yeah.
and a unique style of wine.
Yes.
And
It's Arizona
but
wine,
here's the
man.
other thing.
So
Now,
cheers to that.
quality is a whole other issue. As a professional, when you're
Uh-huh.
tasting a wine, you may not care for that wine. It may not be your favorite wine, but if you can recognize the quality, the structure, these other things that we talked about, yeah, but the taste may not be your favorite. But they're two different
Those are
things.
different things. Absolutely. This is a good wine. I
But
don't
we
care
are
for it,
we are developing a terroir here that is recognizable, and this takes time.
Right, right.
This is over 30 years now.
Well, the good news is I know
that
the owners of this establishment, and Richard and I are going to meet with them for them to taste some Arizona wines like yours and discuss this situation. So
I'm still not in, I would say, 6 or 7 of the most expensive Arizona Phoenix restaurants. Just not in, and no Arizona wines, no.
Yeah.
There's a couple of reasons for that. One of them is bigotry, but another one is I was in Sanctuary for a long time
Mhm.
with a French Somm, and then he left, and they stopped buying our wines, and I went in there, and there was a woman.
Oh,
there
Laura
was a-
Bruno, I love
yeah,
her.
Yeah, she's like in her 60s. Is that?
no.
No, she's very
Now
young.
there's a girl that's like 23.
Oh, okay.
Laura Bruno, she's my good friend. I love her.
Anyway, this woman.
No, Laura
actually
Bruno.
she actually said to me, "Look, it's not the quality of your wine." She says, "What happens is the people that come in here are mega rich. They buy $250 bottles of Napa Valley wine or French wine, and my staff get bigger tips.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm okay. I get it. You know,
Exactly.
but it. I'll tell you, if I owned a restaurant in this city, I would be embarrassed not to have some Arizona wines in it. It's like,
course.
like,
Yes.
for God's sake, you know, you bring all
Yes.
this shit from across the friggin' ocean, you know.
Yeah.
How about your backyard, folks? You know.
We'll go
Yeah.
hang with Laura Bruno and we'll get it in
Okay,
there.
okay.
Yeah, she's I love her. She's
We
great.
listen, we're selling
wouldn't
everything
count
we
on it.
make direct to consumer. I don't even care about those guys anymore.
You
But
have tech sheets
I just
for
think
your
it-
wine?
Yeah.
Good.
I just think it's
Then you have a
embarrassing,
chance.
you know. Yeah.
Mhm. Well, we think your wine's amazing. Chet, do you have any, or Allie, do you have any questions for Sam?
I do. Do you do any tours of your vineyard?
That's a great question.
Of course I do, honey.
He wants a private tour for
It's
you.
not a 1,000-acre vineyard in Napa Valley. It's a little piece of land
okay,
in
that's
Cochise County. I'll take you on anytime you want. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
I'll take people through the vineyard. You can barrel taste. You can go look at how I grow the grapes. You can come and talk to us. All my staff are involved in the blending, the pruning, the harvesting. They all know about all the aspects of it. Anyone who works in any of our tastings will tell you enormous amount of information about
It's
everything.
amazing. It's true.
And for a minute, I worked for Sam.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if Chet knows this, but at the very beginning of the divorce, I should have mentioned that part. But my
Part of it.
a friend said, "Oh, actually, Richard.
You poured for us.
Yeah,
Okay.
Richard
That's how we
invited
met.
me.
Yeah.
We met at,
Yes.
at what you were pouring at Sam Pillsbury Wines.
Yes.
At when they have that, where is that?
It's
On
downtown
Portland.
Phoenix,
On
wasn't it?
Okay,
Portland.
so now I remember.
Right?
A mutual
That
friend
yearly
introduced us.
Neighborhood.
And then he
yeah.
said, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he said, "Do you want a job pouring wine?" And I said, "Well, no, I'll just volunteer." I said, I'll just volunteer. But
That's
I
what he
can't
meant.
get a job right now. Yeah. So anyway,
I didn't have any money to pay.
but anyway, so I had fun just like pouring wines and having fun, and it was just was so much fun. I just had such a good time.
I ask volunteers a lot, partly not really to save money. People love it. It's like, listen, it's like a party. You're pouring something that
It's so much
somebody
fun.
loves and it makes them happy. It's a good feeling.
But the cool thing is, my line was the
Yeah.
longest one
Yeah,
because
that's
I would overpour. You'd say only do
Oh, yeah.
one thing. I go
No.
two.
No, we're not pouring for Kingman. We're pouring for the public.
But this is an interesting.
So my line was
this
the
is another
longest.
interesting point to
And-
bring up about Arizona
Yeah.
wineries in general. These are small, family-owned wineries for the most part here. There's no
Right.
million bottle production,
Right.
and so these wineries exist because they have people who volunteer to pick grapes, to pour at festivals, all kinds of
Because
things.
we have no money,
Right.
People said these
And
wines
it
are too
helps.
expensive.
This is
Yeah.
becomes a community effort.
It's a labor of love.
Absolutely,
Yes.
and it's
Yes.
wonderful to go to a small family-owned winery that's getting started and help them out and pick grapes and do this and join the wine club. This is what makes these wineries thrive.
And how I met you
exist.
was you saw me on Facebook because I don't know who did a video of me pouring wines at Sam's, and you thought I was funny, and you came down to the wine
I said,
pouring.
I gotta meet that woman. She's crazy. Look at that hair.
So you came down, and then you said you had opera tickets. And
That's
so,
right. Yeah.
you said, I have a few opera tickets. Do you have a friend you want to take? And it was really sweet. And that's how that's how our friendship started.
So we still have one more.
What, about like 8 years ago?
There's one more to
Wine.
go.
One more.
8 or 10 years ago.
yeah.
Okay, so there's going to be a big difference between this one and the next one. This is a medium-bodied sort of. For me, this particular vintage, the 19, to me, it's like the wine goes up to you and just puts its arms around you. It's kind of gentle.
Yeah.
It's not
It's a nice
masculine,
little-
like a Napa Valley Cab. It's sort of gentle, but it's so lovely. Now this next wine is a Petite Syrah.
But this one to me is kind of unctuous. I tasted a little bit of the way they feel.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, that'll
And
go
I
on
also
food.
tasted a little gingerbread.
Oh, do you? I know. Okay.
That's the
Whatever
whole
you
point.
taste, whatever you taste is valid. So Petite Syrah
Yeah.
is quite a tannic wine.
Mm-hmm.
It is actually, a lot of people think it's called Petite Syrah because the berries are very small, but the real reason is what Petite Syrah is a cross of Syrah and another variety called there's that jet lag again.
Well, in
He just got back
France, they
from New
call
Zealand
Petit
2 days
Syrah
ago.
Garif.
Because that's the guy who invented it.
Yeah.
And anyway,
But it's another hybrid grape.
it's a cross of Syrah and
Yeah.
I'll think of it in a second. And everyone thinks it's called Petite Syrah because the berries are small. It's actually
it
called
Carignan?
No.
No.
Pillsbury.
Oh, I don't even know that.
Pillsbury's not even
Yeah.
a Rhone variety. But it's actually called Petite Syrah because it's a child of Syrah, and in France, petite means
Oh.
child of. So that's.
I did not know that, really.
No, most people.
Yeah.
don't, I mean
Wow.
that's the story that I researched. I'm not
See,
certain.
the berries aren't small?
The berries are small. But one day I picked a whole lot of Syrah and Petite Syrah berries and put them next to each other, and they're tiny bit small, but it'd be hard to pick it. They're
Right.
wine grapes. I mean, these grapes are like that big. Wine grapes are small because you want to have a much bigger proportion of skin to juice because so much of the wine is about what comes from the juice. So they're not like table grapes at all. Quite
Right.
the contrary. Well, some aromatic whites are pretty big actually, but Syrah berries are tiny.
So then, if the grapes are smaller, they're a little bit sweeter.
No,
No.
nothing to do with sweetness. It's just a greater proportion of skin to juice. And
Okay.
there's a lot of flavor in the skin that you want to get. They've also got seeds in them. Seeds are very
Oh,
important.
okay.
Table grapes mostly don't have seeds. No, the sweetness is, look, when you pick a ripe wine grape, it is so sweet and so sticky it makes you crazy. But it has to be sweet because yeast eats sugar, turns it into alcohol. If you pick them too early, it won't have any bomb to it. So.
Got to have the sugar to get the alcohol.
And we ferment all the sugar away.
And
Sugar
there are
stops you
some
from
places-
tasting. It's in the worst food in the world. These wines have no sugar in them. They're bone dry, and what you're tasting is
Okay, so I'm gonna try this next one. Is that?
Good.
Now
Yes.
there are
So
some
Berlin is
places
gonna
in the
love this
world
one.
where they can't get ripened, like in France, like in Burgundy,
Yeah,
for instance.
yeah.
It's the only place that you can legally add sugar, what they call chaptalize.
chaptalization.
Your class.
That they don't need to do that as much anymore because of climate change.
Because it's sunnier. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, the climate change has affected European vineyards. They're growing wine grapes in England now.
Oh,
That's
wow.
what's
Yeah.
happened. I know, amazing. Absolutely. South of England, mostly Champagne.
So what are, if you would say, what's the wine? I think is it called Guns and Kisses?
Yeah.
So how would you describe that one? Because I
Well,
love Guns and
Okay,
Kisses.
okay. Well, that's a classic. It's an interesting story about.
And it's
Guns
a very,
Kisses.
it's one of its most expensive wines.
Well, it's won 4 times one of the top three Syrahs in America. My
Yeah,
little
it is,
piece
it
of
is.
shit land down by
So
the
good.
Mexican border, and I don't know what I'm
So
talking
good.
about. And it's so funny because the reason I made it.
What is that, 200 a bottle?
120.
Yeah.
Nice.
Underpriced because it's so good.
I actually have never tasted a French Côte Rôtie, but what Côte Rôtie?
Really?
Nope. And what you'll think this is? I only just realized this the other day. What Côte Rôtie means is roughly translated as burnt hills. And I thought,
Okay.
oh, that sounds like our property, you know. So I thought, oh, we'll try this shit. So we did it. We get this double gold, and I entered it in the most expensive Syrah category because even when we first made it, we were charging $74 a bottle, and the most expensive Syrah category in the San Francisco Chronicle is actually only 45. So they said, you just got a double gold for this. And I said, what's a double gold? And that's when all 5 judges in a blind tasting give it a gold medal. So when you see 95 points, that's one judge gave it a gold medal.
Wow.
So I said,
This is a big deal.
I said, how many were entered in that category? This was 10 years ago. And I didn't know what I was doing, you know.
Right.
And they said 55. And I said, how many double golds were there? 3.
Wow.
And it's called a co-ferment. And what happens is when
Yeah.
you make it,
Yeah.
you ferment it with a little bit of Viognier. So you
Or white
you don't make the wines and then blend them. That's blending. You actually co-ferment. And there's something in the skins of the Viognier that changes the chemical
Yeah.
structure of the Syrah. It just tastes amazing.
That's what they do in Côte. That's what a Côte Rôtie is. It's a Côte ferment of Syrah and Viognier.
Yeah.
And you can do it with other grapes
We've
too.
had 4 double golds for that.
Wow.
And,
It's incredible.
You can do
It's
Côte
so
ferments with
delicious.
different reds and
Yeah,
Like
white
this is
reds.
better than
You
any
also
California
do-
wine
yeah.
you could ever drink. It's so good.
This is
Wow.
delicious.
okay, so Petite Syrah.
This one, I mean, all of these are my favorite, but this one is just so wow.
This
Shall
is-
we pass that over here? I'm gonna have a little more. I love it.
I can't even taste today.
This
Wow,
is
it's so
this,
good.
Allergies.
this is the
Can't
bigger.
taste shit.
This is our so-called like biggest wine. It's quite tannic.
So good.
I find it quite difficult to pair because it's so big. It tends to block things out. So what I almost always do when I get asked to do a wine pairing dinner is I said, can you make a chocolate mousse, and we'll have a bone dry
Oh,
Petite
yeah,
Syrah with
yeah,
chocolate
yeah.
mousse. It
There you
works
go.
great. You know.
Oh, chocolate mousse, that'd be really good.
That works.
Ooh, yummy, yummy. So what's on your bucket list? Where do you what do you want to do in the next 10 years with your wines? And do you want to go back into making movies because you've done 32 movies?
No, I don't want to go back to making movies.
Because I think there should be a movie about you and your winemaking,
maybe.
and I'll produce it.
No.
We have 3 minutes. I want to know about what you want to do.
I've done
3 minutes.
I've been doing this since 2000. Okay, that's 23 years. I'm 76 years old.
Mm-hmm. And you act like you're 16.
and especially mentally.
Well, no. I spent a lot of time with him when I was doing the wine tasting. We drive here, we drive there. He's here. He was everywhere.
I
So much energy.
I would like to spend more time talking to people about my wine and less time fixing the irrigation. So if I can get a partner in who wants to do some of that,
That's appropriate.
That would be great.
So you want the partner that's going to do the physical?
Yeah, more of it.
Okay. All right.
I was up
Okay.
at 6 o'clock yesterday morning fixing irrigation.
Well, you can't have my interns. But I'll help you find somebody.
Wait, so we still have a little bit of time left. What are some of the food pairings you do with the Syrah?
That's a good question.
With the Petite Syrah, you
Yeah.
mean? You know, well, again, it's a hard one for me because it's so big. That's why I brought that thing up about having it with the chocolate mousse, because I try to think outside of the box sometimes. Like, I mean, you could have this with any rich kind of meat dish if you
Yeah.
wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it'll compete with it, you know. So I try to go the opposite direction and have something that'll balance it out with. So it's bone dry, no sugar. Have it with a sweet, chewy
barbecue.
chocolate cake. Barbecue tends to be.
But
In the
some
same
people are
area.
okay with the competing.
No, it's okay. No,
I
no,
could
no.
see this with a steak.
Like
Oh no, you can.
I don't think there's any wrong.
Listen, have it with anything. Just don't have it with pan
No,
fried
something-
snapper. That's all. 'Cause you never
Yeah.
taste it.
Something smoky.
But anything
Something
smoky,
smoked
anything
meat.
barbecued, boeuf bourguignon maybe. But
Oh, yes, the classic.
that's
Like
my
a short
diva,
rib or something.
my diva for that.
I think a steak would pair really well with this.
It'd probably be fine.
I would enjoy that.
I tend to not go that way personally so much, but it you know, listen, also, just have fun and drink wine. I mean, I was going to tell this story. One
You
of
are fun, and everyone loves you because you are everything about you. You're intelligent, you're witty, and you really care about being sustainable. You're very what? Sexy. He's sexy. He's flirtatious, and we love it. And so I had the most fun when I was doing all this wine pouring with you. I really did.
I like to challenge convention a little bit, and
Yeah.
sometimes people like you know, I do that thing with I'll be with like 200 people, and I say, one of the reasons we call this wine inappropriate. I don't know why they named it after me. I don't fucking know why, and everyone just falls about laughing. You know, so because
And thanks to you, I have my show. Because I was wine pouring for Sam Pillsbury, and I'm not going to say who, but a lady that owned a magazine said, "Oh my God, everybody's like in your line, everybody's talking to you." She goes, "I want you to work for me." And she snatched me up and took me, and you know, whatever. And then that's what led me to the show. And that's a whole long story. But anyway, we have about a few more seconds.
Wait, one last
Another
question
quick
I
thing.
have as a
Wait, wait.
Pillsbury wine fan.
by
what-
the way,
Oh,
double gold. San Francisco Court.
Amazing.
Let's talk about Arizona wines and sustainability. As like I said, most of these are small
10
family-owned
seconds.
wineries, and would you agree that most wines here are produced fairly sustainably?
You know, as far as
Extremely.
I know,
Yeah.
most of them are not organic. We farm organically. I'm not certified. As far as I know, we're only one of two that do that.
Pillsbury's number
Sustainable-
one. What-
Sustainable and organic are two different
That-
things.
And
No,
what
I
word
know.
do you want to be
Yeah.
known for? You have like 5 more seconds.
Elegance and complexity and sustainability.
Bingo.
Yeah.
I love it.
There you go.
Saving the